Like many people in this room, I grew up hearing North Carolina called the good roads state. North Carolina now lacks the money to make about $4.5 billion worth of widening and upgrades to I-95 from South Carolina to the Virginia line. Some support making 95 a toll road to pay for it, but there is also stiff opposition along the corridor. If not tolls, how can these repairs be made? And that would go to Mr. McCrory.
Well, I think the toll road idea is very poor. To try to retrofit polling on a road and put polling in a road that's been there for years is a mistake. And there are already examples this year of some new roads being considered which even residents don't want, and that money could be surely transferred to I-95 corridor. And this also, again, gets back to the equity formula. As a mayor, I was pushing for trying to have a separate fund for those regions that have major interstate highways going through it. And this is in the east, the Piedmont, and the west. We've politicized DOT for far too long. We've had DOT secretaries go to jail. We've had shell games being played with federal dollars. In fact, in my first year as mayor, I remember talking to the then DOT secretary and trying to explain the DOT shell game that I thought I saw as a newcomer, and he basically just brushed off and said, boy, that's just the way we do things around here. Well, I'm going to break up that system. We're going to break the corruption. We're going to start making decisions for roads, not on politics, but based upon where the experts say we need the roads to connect our rural areas with the urban areas, with the ports and with the airports, with the east, with the Piedmont and the west. And I hope to implement a 25-year infrastructure plan like I did as mayor for the entire state of North Carolina.
Mr. Dalton.
I think tolls should be a last resort, and if you ever implement them, you have to have an alternative route that's not tolled. I think you have to give consideration for the people in the area, the working people. I think it's less offensive if it's a new road and you're constructing a new road. So I think you have to prioritize. Talking about the DOT funding, the first thing you do is prioritize. And if you look at my logistics task force, we talk about the 7 regions in North Carolina and having inland ports, intermodal facilities, and having good routes out from those to the port of choice. We have to prioritize. The second thing is North Carolina has generally been a donor state with its federal tax money. We send more money to Washington than we get back from Washington, and that's not a good formula. We need to work with our congressional delegation to make sure we get as much back as we possibly can. We also need to look at public-private partnerships on some of the improvements that we need. We need more grain storage. We need more refrigeration at our ports. We can do public-private partnerships there. The inland ports I'm talking about suit themselves well for public-private partnerships. And then we have engaged in lease purchase of roads, doing innovative financing on those types of things to move our projects along.
Mr. McCrory,
let me add to that. Not only do we need a 25-year transportation plan for our state, kind of similar to what Eisenhower did for the 50s, connecting regions of our country, which had a long-term impact for generations to come. But I also think we need an energy plan for our state to ensure that we have lower electric rates in our state and that we have sufficient oil and gas for the consumer in our state at a low price. And I think we also need to ensure we have a 25-year water plan to ensure if we do not have sufficient water in all regions of our state, then we're in trouble for
Mr.
recruiting
McCrory,
and retaining new
your
industry.
Time is up.